What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscriber died trying. You see the thumbnail. It's a good question. Did the streets break up the family? So I'm watching BMF, the series. It's like 4 episodes in, I believe. I've seen the first 4. And spoiler alert. So what they're saying is basically Meech and T, the 2 brothers, come from intact family, 2-parent household, working class, middle class, however you want to call it. But, dad kind of works at the plant factory type of job. But they're living check to check, paycheck to paycheck. And what's interesting about it is, at some point, Meech chooses the street life. More money, faster money, easier money. But the brother, T, needs a little bit of, persuading. So he gets into it. And then you see basically a split between the father and the mother. So the husband and wife have so far split up because the father's like, Meech can't be in our house. He can't be in our house because he's a drug dealer. And mom is like, but that's my baby, blah, blah, blah. Now, the streets wind up getting their son T shot. So if you ever seen T, one of his eyes is a little off because he got shot in the head, basically, and threw his eye off or whatever. But the father's like, well, did Meech get him shot because he's in the streets, or is T in the streets too? But mom ain't figured it out yet, but mom don't care. So Meech started paying a mortgage. They're having these big bills coming up. Meech is throwing in money, but the dad is like, but if the dad finds out, it's going left. Because he ain't having it. He's not taking drug money. But mom don't have a problem with it. Mom don't have a problem with her son being a drug dealer or doing drugs in her presence or around her. She doesn't have, they're putting it like she doesn't have an issue with that, as long as Meech becomes the provider. Thus, where this situation goes left is because dad leaves the house. He says, since you want him to be the man of the house so much, this is his house now. And people don't take it into consideration that, we talk about the 80s, we talk about the crack era. But we don't talk about the guys in the crack era who weren't Rolling Stones. It was the morality of the household changed. That was the beginning of the era where children, especially rebellious children, especially drug dealing children, became, quote unquote, the man of the house. When people reference all of these shows and using art as a reference, same thing with Snowfall. The father and the son had an issue with the drug dealing. But mom and Franklin didn't really have an issue with the drug dealing. Even though dad was, was homeless and owned stuff for a while. But when you look back into the shows in the 80s and 90s, or the depiction of the late 80s, early 90s, you saw more 2-parent households. But you didn't think about the backdrop. You didn't think about that part. You didn't think about a lot of these shows where if you were in the streets, the men in the house were like, you can't be here. You can't be here. But you didn't think about how the women were like, that's my baby. So a lot of the payoff goes off to these women who are partial to the street life and accepting money from the streets because money is money. They don't care where it comes from. Thus, when you add along the church element, when people used to say people were, reformed players and pimps and drug dealers and drug addicts, now they're in the church. Now you're giving them your money. So you taking your money from somebody who's in the streets and you giving your money to somebody in the church who used to be in the streets. So the streets have an economy from morality to immorality. So the question would be, did that break up the family? Because there's a part of this equation where when I'm looking at the show, I'm thinking to myself, Meech wants his parents to separate. He knows him giving his mother money is going to cause a ripple between his mother and his father. But he don't want his father in the picture. He want to be the man of the household. He just don't, but he's doing it in a sucker way. And even if it's with good intention, he knows it's going to end badly, but he doesn't care. So what if dad leaves and goes off and gets divorced and then has another family, and then them and that family get along real well, but he's running around being a drug dealer? What does that say? Oh, you got abandoned? Or does that say dad made a choice to go, listen, man, I got a family who chose the streets over the family because we were financially in a bind? Not to mention, by the way, part of the financial bind is when you have criminal-minded kids, they're a financial drain. They may be out in the streets making money, but, you know, you're going to have to pay for their hospital fees, their attorney fees, their, you know, if something happens to their kids. Because there is no backup plan. There's no insurance and stuff like that for them. So that dad that's working and overworked and underappreciated, he's going to be the one taking out loans and other loans and secondary loans and tertiary loans because you wanted to be in a fast life so much you never had a backup plan. So that's a whole nother part of the story that people forget too. So did the streets break up the family? Tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe, or die trying. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace.